right now you're a solopreneur, is that right? Or do you have people working for you right now?
Solopreneur. I mean, I don't have any like full-time employees. I have contractors that are
Yep.
working with me. Yeah. And then I
Yeah.
also I partner with other agencies too. So, part of what I offer is just I fill the gap with other resources. It may be something that we're going to do, or I'm going to do, or somebody in my kind of partner network, we'll call it, right? It's
Yeah.
informal, but it's there. Um, so yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. And how long have you been at it? Can you remind me?
Tomorrow will be my 2-year anniversary,
That's awesome.
and it's not official, but I just hit platinum, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, big
Just gotta
unlock.
just gotta hang on for a couple, like 2 more weeks until they lock it in on the 15th, I think, of April. But I have all the points today. Some are gonna be dropping off, so we'll see. And we'll be right there. But I have a screenshot, so at least I hit it for a moment.
Yeah.
Sure, it's bragging rights. That's
Yeah.
that for me. It's more just like it's just more confirmation that I made the right choice and that I'm doing things the right way, and we're growing and having fun while we're doing it. And this is just it's a feather in the cap. Nice thing to have.
That's awesome. Like, so you've been at it for 2 years. Has it been like pretty steady increase, or have you changed things along the way and there's a hockey stick? Like, what's the journey been like?
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate to have two strong clients right out of the gate. One of them was a former employer that I had, left there and made that first jump, and they came on as my first client, and they're still clients today. So really, very fortunate and thankful for them. And then another client, kind of in their world, joined on within the first month. So we took off kind of like all right, I was able to replace my base income from my previous employment and feel like comfortable, right? I can pay
Yep.
my bill. We're okay.
Yep.
But it was still uneasy because I had two clients.
Yeah.
And in the back of my head, well, what happens if I lose one of these? I'm going to be in trouble. Guess what? I lost one.
Yeah.
And I had a couple smaller clients that I was just starting to get some traction with, and I was just starting to get a little more traction and getting my name out there, and figuring out how to really just run an agency. That's my first agency that I've been a part of. And so we kind of started out nice, and then we had the oh shit moment, and then we started kind of over the summertime, started bringing ourselves back up, and then Q4 of last year, things just went boom. And I landed some really sizable projects and a fractional CMO role, and kind of gave me some additional padding to say, okay, you're people are starting to knock on your door more, and I don't like to say no to them if I can help them. Um, Time to take on some more help.
Yep.
So then I
Yep.
just started saying, all right, I need some more like HubSpot, like doers and admins to go do a lot of the work, and I can help with the strategy and the architecture of what needs to happen. And that's kind of where we started, kind of doing that more hockey stick there, where it's like, okay, I can help get somebody in and help, really understand where we can add the value and make the biggest impact, and then help mentor and direct somebody to go do all the tactical work
Yep.
and give them some autonomy, right? To say, like, there's 6 ways to do it.
Yep.
You do it your way. We're going to have some guidelines in terms of how we should be doing these things, because I know in my experience that tends to work really well if we do it a certain way.
Hmm.
And then I spend my time doing touch-based meetings now with my team versus trying to spread myself too thin over too many clients.
Yep.
And then I maintain a couple of them. There's a couple that I keep close to home where I am kind of the account manager as well. But if I want to keep growing, that only will last so long, right?
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So real quick for background, what inspired you to sort of you strike out on your own? Like, how did you get started and headed down this path?
I guess it's just because I realized how big of a pain in the ass I could be for a leadership team. Because I was always just never satisfied with the status quo, and why can't we do it this way? And there's got to be a better way to do it that way. And
Yeah.
I think I came to this realization after 20 years of doing it, and some personal family things where it's like, hey, life is short. I've always wanted to be my own kind of boss and lead a team or lead a company like the way that I would do it. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I've said in a conference room, hey, well, if it was my company or if I had my way, I would do it this way. All right, we'll take that into consideration, do something else.
Yep.
So it's something I always wanted to do, and I just kind of I heard the universe speaking to me with the opportunity that was in front of me, and what was going on in my current role, my current organization. And I said, well, a lot of things that are going on personally and professionally that make this risk less risky. And even if it did fail, I have a more secure fallback plan, right? Like I'm a little bit further on in my career. I've been working for 20 years. I have a little bit more of a nest egg. So if I took the risk, it's like not going to be, getting kicked out of my house. So all these things kind of lined up, and that's kind of what sparked it all. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, you mentioned that Q4 last year things really took off. Well, that was Q4 2024 or 2023? 2024.
24.
Yes.
24.
So was it like, it sounds like as things kind of ticked up and you sort of saw some, bending the curve there, you leaned into kind of how you deliver, but was there anything that you changed leading up to that hockey stick that like preceded business kind of taking off? Did you change how you went to market or anything, or were you just like things just started falling into place?
I think that there are probably a couple of things. One, it takes time to get the freight train moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, we had left the station, but we just hadn't picked up a lot of passengers yet. So we had started
Yep.
picking up some more passengers on the ride, and that, so now we're starting to get a little momentum, and then it's, all of a sudden somebody you're working with tells somebody else, oh,
Yep.
hey, right? Or somebody leaves one organization and goes to another one. I've gotten
Yep.
those calls several times. Hey, Zach, I want you to do, what you did for us at this other company, this company.
Yep.
And then I also started, listening to some of my own advice, which was, hey, you have a lot of opportunities right there sitting in front of you with your existing clients.
Right.
You have certain clients that are only in, Marketing Hub, but not in Sales Hub, or in Sales Hub, but not in Marketing Hub. It's like, have you really explored all those opportunities yet and tried to uncover, are there ways that we can add value? And in a lot of situations, right, we would talk about it and say, yeah, you know what, it's probably the juice isn't worth the squeeze on this one. And it's probably just not a great fit. Nice to have, but not need to have. And then
Yep.
in other situations, it was like, wow, this is really, we need to have this. Like this makes a lot of business sense. And then some other accounts, it's like they've grown, mergers, acquisitions. They've started just like saying, oh, like other teams heard about this. Now now they want to get a part of it. So I started looking at trying to grow, from my own internal client base. And I think just the combination of all that just hit.
Yep. Yep.
You know,
That's awesome.
I have one client in particular where my personality can be a little prickly or abrasive or abrupt, and I'm very to the point. I don't sugarcoat it. It's like you don't pay me to be to make you feel great about everything. It's like you pay me to get you results, and that sometimes the truth hurts. And I'll apologize if I'm wrong. Don't of course but so like I have a client where I'm like, yeah, you should work with this person on my team. They're a little sweeter than I am, And also it's like I kind of don't really want to work. I don't want to do that stuff. I don't really want to do that anymore. I'd rather like focus on these other parts of the business that I enjoy more and the business needs more. So I think that the hard part is like you got to find people that are good at that job and that you can trust, and have like enough of them where like you can have like at least one person on the bench. That's why I like the 1099 route, because as I get more projects, and I can see who's got what hours, I can just say, I'm going to add another 1099, right? Or if
Yep.
you're going to go the employee route, I'm going to add another employee. The
Yep.
tough thing is that when the work goes down and you have someone's salary on your head, that sucks.
Yep.
So like I'm walking that line of employee and 1099 because I give them some more autonomy than I would an employee. Because if it was an employee, I would be very rigid, like you have to do things exactly this way. This is right. But with the 1099, you can give them more of a framework. And if you have people who are good at the product and they have, good critical thinking skills, and they have all these, like they're curious, they want to learn, they're a good person, it's hard to find these people, but got two of them right now. Like I need to find a third one to be on, kind of starting to get on deck. But I then kind of switch where I'm doing my touch base meetings now with these contractors and giving them a framework to work in, and then saying, okay, like let's review like what these are the here's the roadmap, right? Here are the things. As long as you're adding value and the client's happy, that's all we're here to do. I don't care really what it is. Just always be adding value, and there's, value. Like we're going to bring things to the table, and then they're going to bring things to the table, and we may not think that there's a ton of value in that, and we'll express it. But at the end of the day, if they're happy and we're getting results, that's what we're here to do. And if it fits in this kind of box, just do it. And so then it just becomes okay, you need a place for them to track their time and log their hours and make the invoicing, the billing stuff like really easy to do. And so like that's kind of, I have it set up pretty easily, where it's just like you go into my FreshBooks account, you log your time under the client, under the project. I know like what my hourly rates are that I'm charging the client. I know what I'm paying the contractor to do. They submit their hours at the end of the month, and I give them, and I pay them.
Yep.
And I'm getting paid up front from the clients as well. So I'm asking for those hours or those projects up front. You pay in advance, and then we chip away at it. And I'm trying to, most of my clients are on retainers now too. We're trying to move away from project stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think you just got to move. You're just going to shift more of your time into accounting stuff, right? Making sure that they're submitting their hours, and that you're not going like, I just had one where it's like, oops, I thought we had 20 hours this month. I'm like, no, we only had 15 hours a month. So you went over 5 hours this month and 5 hours last month, and that's on me because I wasn't paying attention to the project, right? Mm-hmm. So, but just, hey, next month, just let's do 15 hours, not 20, Yeah. So, then it turns more into like, you got to babysit the hours, and you have to, and then I think that you can't lose track of, like a lot of these clients, like they signed up with you, right? And, they're trusting that you will have kind of command of the ship. Like they hired your ship and you have a bunch of sailors sailing it. And they're like, okay, I don't know these sailors, but I trust that Chris, hired a bunch of good sailors. So, I'll work with the first mate. And so I think that's still important to make sure that you're having like a quarterly touch base with those clients and still doing like, having eyes and ears on what's going on, and having some level of involvement. But like the tactical stuff, it's just, I think you got to find, and if it's not like an individual or a 1099, then just go find an agency. I'll say, if I can keep on feeding you work, would you want to grow and scale kind of with me and start bringing on the talent and taking care of that? If I can just keep on bringing you hours, will you grow, do that with me? Yeah, absolutely. Great. Now go find another to have on the back burner, because if you max out, something happens, right? Have your oh shit plan and maybe start trickling them a little bit of work. It's just like supply chain, you have a second source.
I know a place where you can find great people.
Me too. I think it's
Do you have to have done that job to bring someone in to help you scale? Like,
no.
So you hire skills that maybe you're not got it. That's super helpful. It's like the question we get all the time.
Yeah, it's the critical thinking. Like, are you a good problem solver? Like, do you have like good foundational HubSpot knowledge?
Yep.
Do you have several years of experience working with it? I don't want you like this to be like, I just got my first certification. It's like, no, you have some certifications under your belt. You've had to either have done this at an agency or on your own, or like work for, at least 2 companies where you've implemented it or worked with it pretty closely. So you have a little bit of like some perspective on different, real life examples and stuff. And then, I feel like it's my job, and what I really enjoy doing too, and I'm kind of getting back into this. I did it for a while, and like before I started Hussion Bound, and managing people is tough, right? It's tough work, but I really love the mentoring, and so like I love teaching people new hacks and new tricks or new ways to do it. And so if I can keep on staying focused on being cutting edge and staying on abreast of all the things that are coming down the pipe or that have come out, so that when and then I've trained my people to say, hey, when you run into a problem and you don't have a really like, oh, this is an easy solution. If you have to spend too much time thinking about it, call me up. Maybe I have a great way to do it, and I can at least think in the right direction and get you going.
Yep.
And look at me as being kind of like your, Zach GPT.
Like so you would bring people in. Let me figure out how the best way to ask this. Like, you know how to do that job. You're bringing someone in to help you scale. And so you're in a place where you can coach and mentor and train them
Yep.
directly. That's sort
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
versus like you'll bring
Yeah.
in someone who you're not a specialist in that area. You don't do that as much, or do you do that as well?
A little bit. So it's like I will like if I can find somebody who was like, okay, I know Sales Hub, Marketing Hub, Service Hub, like I know I can, all the hubs, I have a ton of experience with them. Great. Like you're
Yeah.
the, the needle in the haystack.
Yep.
If you're, more likely kind of probably gonna be, I'm more of a marketing guru, right? Like I live and thrive in like marketing automation and website, CMS world and email, stuff. Or I'm a sales, guru, right? I live in sales and leads and deals and all that kind of stuff. So I have
Yep.
kind of right now, like I have people who kind of a little bit more on the sales side, but can do some marketing stuff, and more on the marketing side, but can do some sales stuff. So I think that as I'm growing, it's like, well, what does this client mainly need? Are
Yeah.
they more sales focused? Are they more marketing focused? Do they need a little bit of everything?
Yeah.
So they need a little bit of everything, and I could bring two people in on it, right? I don't have
Yeah.
to, but then it's like, okay, now I'm paying. If we're all on a call together, now I got two people that I'm paying for that call versus
Mhm.
just one.
Yep.
So, kind of, bringing in the right people as I'm scaling. So if it's long term, it's long term relationships, agreements. So if I'm going to bring somebody in, it's not usually going to be for here's just like we got 20 hours to do this thing.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
going to bring somebody in when they say, hey, we're going to give you 20 hours a month.
Yep. Makes
Because
sense.
then I can
Yep.
say it's sustainable. It's worth bringing someone in. They're like, build a relationship with this client.
These are client-facing resources that you're engaging with. Like you're kind of out in front of every interaction. You're
Nope.
not the face. Got it.
Yeah. I've given
Yeah.
them some, like, again, I've given them a framework for like how I want to run like the weekly touch base meetings and where we store documents and,
Yep.
like these are the things that we go through. Here's our onboarding checklist. And
Yep.
I make sure that I guide them with that and I review that document with them. But when it comes to like, so that was my struggle is all of a sudden I'm like, oh, geez, shit, I'm on 7, 8, 9 meetings a day with, I was like,
Yeah.
this is too much. I don't even have time to do half the project work now, and I'm working late. And so all of a sudden, now I look at my calendar and it's like, oh, I've got like 7, 8, 9 meetings this week that I don't even have to be on
Yeah. Yeah.
because I've trusted them to just go do it and
Yep.
given them, some guidelines, but I haven't like handcuffed them and I just, trusted them to do a good job. And then I take the responsibility of saying, I still need to keep my finger on the pulse
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, these people have trusted me, to with their money.
I've observed 3 different strategies for how to respond to requests for help from customers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You have one approach that is based on what the customer asked for. Here's the full scope. Let's call it biggest, right? Sort of response. Then you
Yeah.
have, an approach on the other end of the spectrum, perhaps that's like, we need to have a call. $0, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not going to
$0,
bid anything at all. We need to talk first. And then you've got kind of somewhere in between those, you've got an approach where folks are saying, based on what you shared, here's a scope, but we need to confirm it on a call. And it's kind of like I don't know. I would maybe think about it as like a palatable
Yep.
first offer.
Yeah, here's $500, we'll hop on a call and kind of start, kind of get a better understanding of what, how I work, how you work, what you need, what I can do, like make sure we're a good match and
Yeah.
put a little more structure behind this before we give you a formal, like big help. Or, hey, we'll throw, like, I'm not sure exactly how many hours this will take us, but, if we can both agree that, we feel comfortable working with each other, here's 10 hours to start, knowing that it may require more
Which
work.
of those 3
Yep.
strategies do you tend to?
I think I've tried all of them.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Like my last one I submitted was like $0, it's because it's like they didn't give a lot of detail. So it's like, well, I can't. How do you give me? It's just like I had a client the other day. Hey, give me a quote on doing some email nurturing.
Yeah.
Okay. How many? How many touch points? Do you have all the content ready? And so there's like I have a bunch of questions that will dictate. If you said I have nothing, I need you to create all the content, do all the mapping, do everything, write all the workflows. That's a very different number than, hey, I've got it all mapped out.
Yeah.
Or I have all the content written. I just need someone to go build it. Yeah, that's like a $500 job versus a $5,000 job.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So I've tried a little bit of both. Started out with like just a $150. Let's just chat, And I think I was probably one of the first ones to submit, booked a call right away. And this like particular client, like they're a startup, they're in startup mode. So
Yep.
those kind of like those cultures, right? They're very quick. They don't wait. It's like boom, this guy responded. He looks good enough. Let's go. Like we need to get this
Yep.
thing first to market. It doesn't good enough, right?
Yep.
So I think that contributed. I followed up fast. I was there to say like I can help you, but I need to learn. So I don't know. And it's really hard. It's a good question because I don't know if clients really want to see like, oh, that's $30,000 because I think
Yep.
most of them aren't expecting that.
Yep.
And I think that if you try to throw a number at it, some people might even say, "Oh, geez, how did you even come up with that number?
Right.
Where did that come from?"
Yep. Zach,
Or
you
not.
mentioned, as you've been scaling, you have like your rhythm. You have a rhythm with your team. You check in weekly, you check in with clients and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Like I think that there are a lot of pros at home that will think like, that sounds awesome. What are the mechanisms that like best practices for how I keep my arms around like this extended team that I'm scaling?
Yeah, I think you just so if I think about how I scaled or how I started out, right? I started out with one client, then I had two, then I had three, and then you get to a point where probably, and I think most pros would agree that you get to like that like six client-ish level, and you're still like, okay, like I can't really take on too much more, otherwise quality of my work goes down. I'm gonna start getting late on things, or I'm gonna be working too many hours. And that was another
Yeah.
reason I did this. I don't want to, I don't want to work 60 hours a week. I want to have more flexibility with my life.
Yeah.
So I think it's like you get to that point, and then you say, okay, now instead of having six client meetings a week, now I have six contractor meetings a week, or six employee meetings, touch base a week, or less, because if you only have two or three or four people working for you, those are only two or three or four meetings you have to book a week. And then you have the same kind of thing that you would do with your clients, right? We're coming in with an agenda. What are
Yeah.
the things we need to talk about? And then you know that you start getting into the rhythm where you know how each other work. You say, okay, first I want to just, let's talk about this client. How are things going?
Yep.
Good, bad, ugly. Oh, they're great. Things are great. Okay, why are they great? Okay, great. What's not going so well? Right. So it's like, what's going well? What's not going well? Where do you need help? Where do I need to jump in? Do you see any licensing opportunities? Do you see any, anything? Right. So it's like my eyes and ears on what's going on. You're feeding me this information. I'm asking you these specific questions because I'm listening to see if there's anything for me to say. I know I have it on my schedule to touch base with you once a quarter, but maybe I should just reach out to the CEO or the VP of sales or the VP of marketing right now and say, hey, it's been a little, maybe we should schedule a call and talk about this one thing,
Yep.
right? Or they'll say, hey, the client wants to do this like more advanced data integration, and I can't support that. Great, we'll bring in this other team to go do it, and
Got it.
then you'll work with them on this. Super
Yep.
helpful.
Zach, I know
Awesome.
we're way over at this point. Thank you so much
Okay.
for taking the time to talk with us. I am fascinated. I know others will be fascinated as well. Just thank you. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful. We have folks, that have reached out and asked, what are the best practices, right? We've
Yeah.
got a lot of people who are thinking about going out on their own. We got others who are thinking about like, how do I actually scale? It's
Yep.
good to talk through how you've actually done it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about helping to grow the ecosystem and help people grow their business. There's a ton of work out there. Cool. Well, I appreciate the time. Good, always good chatting with you guys too.
Zach, thank you so much.
love
We'll
it.
follow up.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good rest of your week.